All right, close enough. Let's call the meeting to order. First thing is to act on the agenda. Do we have any modifications?
Yes, I'd like to add something to the agenda. I was at the office when a call came through about Brook Joy Road and some debris in the road. And so I went up and spoke to some people about that. So where do I add that on the agenda? Where I want to talk to all of you about it.
Old business.
Yeah, probably old business. Very old business.
Very old business, I know.
Okay, well, do we need a motion to add it, or?
Nope.
Okay. Then I would like to add something too, just a very brief report on the speed thing, because
That's old
The
business
speed.
also.
Yeah.
we never, it was just an email that came, but we never discussed it at a meeting.
Traffic count results.
Maybe it's highway road commissioners report.
Everybody good?
Everybody good?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Act on the minutes of the July 24 meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comment.
Well, what do I do? I guess I have to introduce myself or something?
Yeah,
Who am I?
you would.
Okay. Name is Jean-Claude Sureau at 1206 North Hill Road. By way of setting the stage, I just would like you to, may not realize, but my wife and I have had a home in Andover for 55 years, by the way. So needless to say, same home, by the way. So needless to say, we have some fairly deep, although we've never been permanent residents, we have established some fairly deep roots in this community. In the light of what's happened, my two of the things I wanted to address seemingly are going to be addressed because they've been added to the agenda. Speaking, namely, the LBF issue, and also, I guess, maybe a few comments on the speed issue. So maybe I'll wait until you discuss the LBF situation for further. Since it is now on the agenda,
Yes.
I'm not quite sure how to
That's
deal with it.
perfect, yeah. If you wait till it gets brought up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We'll do it then.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Lenore Schumann, Cobb Road. I just wanted to make some general statements. I've been living here full-time 11 years, owned my home, but not a vacation home. It was rented, but not short-term, for 10 years before that, because it was the place we wanted to live. It will be the first place my husband and I ever actually chose to live, where we had dreams of moving to a place just like this. And so I wasn't born here. And my parents weren't born here. But I'm going to be buried here. And I'm claiming that. My heart is breaking from what I'm seeing of the anger, the meanness, what's being expressed on Facebook, for example. I wasn't at the meeting where there was ugliness here, but as a result of that, whatever it was about on chat, we no longer have the really great democracy of Zoom, I guess. But that's kind of mysterious to me because it's not exactly in the minutes what's going on. So I just would like to ask you to do what you can to bring us a little bit closer to what it says on here, the civil part. In connection with the back and forth for the cannabis farm, one of the vacation homeowners wrote on Zoom a statement that used the word street. And somebody else said, if you were from here, you would say road. So what you're saying really is, who cares? You're paying taxes, you have an investment in the community like this gentleman, but you weren't born here. And there's a tribe that was, and that's how it's beginning to feel. Now you read about this in like the lore of Vermont, but I never felt it. I always felt warm, at home, welcome. In the last couple of years, maybe it's because Facebook exists, maybe because my ears are open, but I'm hearing the tribes be rude to each other on Facebook. A woman said to me in Londonderry, and it's not Andover, but I was waiting at the deli counter, and she didn't know who I was or where I was from. But she was unhappy about the flowers that had been planted in the triangle of the parking lot there by Route 11, where she called it the triangle. She said, so-and-so planted flowers for years and years and years, and then they come and they tear them up because they think that they can't see the road, and they put something else in there. And I said, gosh, I don't know so-and-so because I'm from Andover, but I'm gonna take a look, I never noticed. And she said, they come and they bring what they bring, and it's not good. And that's kind of the vibe that's coming into this beautiful town. That it happened with the cannabis farm, that, no, I'm not saying a majority, there's just voices. And the voices are so ugly. So people who are second homeowners are abutting that property. And there's a few voices that come up and say, too bad. We can do what we want on our property. Same thing is happening on Lovejoy Brook Farm. And you guys, you have your work cut out for you. That's a really big problem, but it is your work. There are solutions. You don't like them, and I don't think you'll vote for them, but a junk ordinance exists. It's repeated over and over again in towns if you Google them, and it's boilerplate. They're all identical, and it requires a fence or a hedge to the road and to the abutters. It's boilerplate. You can look it up. Junk ordinance Vermont towns. But one town, there was a war. It was like it was an open forum on the web about the junk ordinance that was being discussed. And the people were writing basically what I'm hearing here about short-term rentals. Don't tell me what to do on my property. Someday I might want junk. Someday I might want to have a wedding. And people who are living next to weddings every week, nobody who lives here wants a wedding on their tent in their backyard every week. So when we on the zoning board first put up the list of things we didn't want to see in short-term rentals, and I don't have a short-term rental, and I don't have any problems on my road, and I don't expect to have any short-term rentals. I don't expect to have a cannabis farm. I don't expect any of these things. But I don't live in the middle of a 10-acre property. I live near the road. So who knows, tomorrow it could be any of us. So I'm asking you basically to think about the people who come here. They're unhappy, and it's you guys who make the rules. You can change them. It's not like I did with my kids' bedtime. It's like, I'm sorry, it's bedtime. It's my fault. You have to go to bed. Well, the kid believed me, but it is my fault. I made the bedtime. So it's not like we're the kids who, you have to fall back on the idea, can't help it, we don't have a rule. It's true, there's so many things you can't regulate. And I know that a lot of people don't want to regulate. But those people who live like this guy, who live on Andover Ridge with the weddings, who live next to the party houses or the junkyard, and it's not me. It's like, I just want two things. I want you guys to lead with something about bringing the town together, recognizing that there's ugliness under the surface, which I know you know, or we would be having Zoom right now, and see if you can figure out how your leadership can cause people to not be so ugly to each other, and put some heart into people who come with their problems. That it's true we may not have a rule against it, and you may not be able to do anything about the crap that goes on at Lovejoy Farm or the mean guy who's with the cannabis farm, and God knows. Now, because I'm on the zoning board, I heard him, and I know he's angry. And what he was gonna do to placate the neighbors when he needed us, I'm sure he's not gonna do it now. I'm sure he's not gonna cover that thing up when he has to light it. I'm sure he's, thinking about being part of a tribal situation and on a team where he's, spiteful. I don't know him, but, now we have no control over him, fine. But we have other things we could do to kind of not have these feelings that people have. And I see them in zoning, and once in a while, I'm here. So that's my speech. It's breaking my heart, and I hope that you guys are thinking about it as much as some of us in town are.
So I'd like to say that Facebook, we are not, and the town of Andover does not have a Facebook.
Oh, I know, I'm not.
Facebook is its own entity.
No, but those
and
are
you
Andover residents.
But what I'm saying is that you are absolutely right. Facebook has this, it doesn't matter whether you're a kid in school or whether that, and I agree with that. It's pretty horrendous what goes on Facebook. We don't really have control over that.
I'm not asking you to control the Facebook, it's just that that's how I found out what people are thinking.
Yeah, I know, I can speak for myself, and I think I can speak for Robin as well, is that one of the things that we do not do is ever get into those wrangles on Facebook, because it's awful.
I wouldn't want you to.
And we do not in any way, shape, or form, because really, it's like everyone's in 8th grade and they're all pushing each other around.
That's the first thing I thought of. Oh my God, this is what's happening to our kids now. I get it.
Yeah.
But we don't have any control over that,
I totally
unfortunately.
understand.
And as a group, I feel pretty strongly that we work well together, but I do hear your concerns.
That you guys work well together. sure.
And that we do try to reach out, and we enjoy, I should say I shouldn't speak for everyone else. As much as it puts you on the hot seat, enjoy a room full of people, because I want to hear what everyone has to say. I may not agree with everything, or I may agree with everything, but how am I going to be well informed if I don't hear what everyone has to say?
But also you don't hear what, even if the room has 40 people in it, you don't hear what everyone has to say.
Right.
So there's a limit. I'm not offering you like get on Facebook. God, no.
No.
Yeah.
And I haven't written anything. I've never in my life. I've never done anything but lurk. But it's appalling. And these are our neighbors, and they're mean people. I mean, they're not mean people. They're nice people. I'm sure I'd like them, unless I talk about one or two things I shouldn't talk about. I'm sure that I come across them in my daily life. The woman at the deli, we were having a nice conversation until she said, didn't they ruin the town? It's like, okay, I'm incognito. I'm not going to argue with that.
Right,
She
right.
thinks I'm one of us, then great. But I mean, now that I know it's there, other people must know too. And the people who live in the heart of the discomfort of having something on the road that's. I can't walk my dog back to Lovejoy Farm since Lydia died because those evil dogs were there.
Yeah. I think, and I'm going to say this for all of us to a certain degree, and I think what's been happening for us is that we are wanting to address all of these issues, and we are, but we want to do it in a way where when it's dealt with, and like you said, drafts, looking at what we can do with zoning, looking at all of that, we just want to make sure, and this speaks to your point, that once something is either brought to the town to vote on, like a draft of the new zoning regulations, or once we make a determination about a Brookjoy Road situation, that it's something that is going to be really fair to everyone. I mean, not where everybody gets their own way, because that's not going to work, but at least there's the fair factor in it. So that's why we're taking our time. I think I can speak to everybody just to say we're trying to take our time to make sure that legally and socially it's kind of good for everyone, right? That is what I'm saying about. So I understand what you're saying, and I know it's been frustrating, but I also can say to you that we are really trying to get these things done, but we just want to make sure that it doesn't come back to bite anyone, or that it doesn't make it so that anyone is so unhappy, right? Everybody wants to live together and be happy in the community. So I think it's not that we're not thinking of that or not trying to do that. It's just we're trying to do it in such a way that there's no knee jerk to it. We're not just doing something that then turns into a problem on the other end. That's, I think.
I appreciate your position. You have, I'm not saying that I don't. It's just
Yeah.
I'm asking you to
As far as
weigh the community more than the individual
yeah.
in these issues. And the individual homeowner, there may be 10 or 20 people who want to do what that homeowner's doing, and it's affecting another 100 in the neighborhood, if it's 20.
Thank you, Lenore, for sharing what you just shared. I guess we did decide to try live streaming as opposed to Zooming.
That's on the agenda.
Well, that's on the agenda, but.
Any questions about Zoom, you should answer in the first article of old business.
Right, but we sort of, like, part of that was an attempt, feeling that Zoom kind of was getting merged into social media. That was,
It was turning Facebooky.
yeah, so.
In exchange, I mean, I appreciate that because Facebook is very ugly. People can be ugly when they're anonymous. But now it would be taken away. I know I shouldn't talk about it because you haven't.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
New business flood updates.
We have been assigned our FEMA contact person, and he's waiting to hear from Chris and myself or whoever else we need to do an initial phone call. And from there, he kind of laid out the start of the paperwork, and he said he would go through that with us. I set up, so you all approved using the tax stabilization fund to pay the first invoices that came in until that account was empty, which it now is. And so then we started using highway bridge fund money. As of right now, I've written checks for $220,000. And I have $40,000 more in invoices and more to come. So I have all the paperwork in place in terms of every contractor. So the FEMA in particular is very particular about paperwork, and they give you a certain amount of time to treat things as an emergency and do what you have to do to get things fixed right away. And then you run out of that grace period. So we're now in the process of getting contracts signed by all the contractors who are doing work for us and making sure that we have a packet for every contractor that FEMA will want to see as part of the eventually, hopefully, getting reimbursed somewhat.
Is that going well with each contractor?
It has, yep. Everybody's been really helpful and pretty responsive. I have, the basics were getting me stuff to get set up in our accounting system if you weren't already, which some of them were not, and getting me like valid certificates of insurance, which is huge. So it's been good, and actually seeing invoices, I could build their contracts from their invoices so I understood, because I don't know sitting in the office what this contractor does versus what this contractor does. And they were all good about doing their price sheets, talking about what kind of equipment they have, because a FEMA spreadsheet, it's not just an excavator. It's how big is the excavator? How big is the thing on it? And when you say it's a loader, is it a loader with this kind of engine and this size bucket? Or is it this size engine and this size bucket? I don't know that stuff. So they've been all good about writing that in. So hopefully that will help filling out all the spreadsheets when we get to that point in time.
Thank you.
Sounds like you have a lot of
I
work
know.
on your plate, Jeanette.
Jeanette's like, I've got some forms.
And, those 4 open grants that we have that we're still working on.
Well, thank you.
That's where
Are
we're
you
at.
able to keep up? Or are you-
It depends on the day. Last week I finally got to a point where it was just that on top of it being tax time. So it's just, extra stuff going on, but we're getting there.
Okay.
And we're getting our tax money in, which is helpful, and the running joke now is you come in and maybe you get to name a culvert this week. Or you can see what it is your check is buying. You can see the big rocks out there that you just paid for.
The road work is getting done.
Good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of compliments about the road work, and everybody's been very understanding for the most part and complimentary of the process and seeing the finished product in the places where it's been able to be finished.
If you have a situation like Schmidt Road that might be closed for a long time and somebody can't get to their house, Is the town obligated to in any way make that situation?
They are accessed now.
What?
They're there. They can get there
Oh,
now.
they can get there. Oh,
Yep.
good. Okay, I didn't
As
understand
of,
that.
you said it was
Yesterday.
yesterday, yeah. I didn't.
So it just needs a lot of money to really get fixed, but they can
Yeah.
use their place.
Yeah.
Well, in time,
Yeah, time.
time and,
They actually are coming up this weekend, Johnny said. Somebody's going to have to stay.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
have to drive around all the construction, but. I believe Gulf Road South is the only one left that is inaccessible. Old business, live streaming.
I spoke with, another person other than, just went to a second resource for that and talked about different ways to do it. And he said they set it up for the church without needing to buy any special equipment. And there's an app and setting up a YouTube channel, and he kind of talked me through it. So, I will start that process as soon as I can.
So just to summarize, we decided as a board not to do Zoom anymore because of the repercussions of the chat. So all of the meetings are available on Okemo Valley TV or in person right here if you come to the meetings, but we're trying to set up a way to just be able to live watch them also. There will be no way to comment or chime in, but you'll be able to watch them live stream also.
So what I was gonna say, and I appreciate that, it's certainly an improvement. Technology is taking us a lot of places. Being on the zoning committee with Zoom, sometimes that's how we manage to get a quorum, and in bad weather or when people are sick. But mostly I feel like, given the cannabis situation and the people who really had opinions and could only express them on Zoom because they were at a distance, and they were legitimate. I think that so much legitimate opinions come out. It was such a democratic outcome of the pandemic that I know it's too late, but I wish we could keep Zooming because I like hearing those people who can't come. And as I say, we have somebody on zoning who's Zooming all the time and contributes to the, as a member.
The zoning board is welcome to continue Zooming if that's what you choose.
This is, I would look at it as an experiment, and if there was if it becomes compelling to go back on Zoom for whatever reason, we could. And part of the issues for me, wanting to do live stream is just the very poor sound quality that we experienced with Zoom. It just at some point didn't make a lot of, it's only half makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that's another conversation as to whether, if it feels like, if we stop doing Zoom and it feels like we get a lot of people who are wanting to do Zoom again, it seems to me that we could take up the conversation again about improving the infrastructure for that. I mean, at least that's what I would think. Because, yeah, you have very legitimate points about the.
Some of it's just a mere being able to get business done. Because if these are meetings in public, but they're not really public meetings as far as public input. And it's just hard for us to get much of anything done if we have a crowd here to try and manhandle everything. And it's that way over Zoom, it gets out of hand.
But on the one hand, you guys are asking for a crowd, and on the other hand,
I know.
you're saying it slows the meeting down, so I see you're in bind. I don't need that balance, but that's how you get a crowd, is when it's raining on Zoom.
Yeah.
Anyway, live streaming is what we're going to try for the moment. Yeah. Take that route. Draft of proposed zoning regulations. We have a copy from the lawyer who suggested changes.
Oh,
Maybe I just sort of quote, sort of like, time out off the record kind of thing. What is the extent to which, above and beyond item 3 on this agenda, item 4, can the public, in fact, comment on the things that are being discussed? I mean, there's only 2 of us here, but there's been some interaction. But so, in terms of the formal regulations or how you operate, what is the extent to which, do we speak only when asked to speak? Or do we interrupt just like I've done to make a comment on a point that's, either new business or old business, or how is this taking place?
if it's not on the agenda, when you get to number 4, that's the time to stand.
Okay.
And if it is something on the agenda, it is etiquette to raise your hand or stand up and wait, but with only being 2 people here. But when we have a meeting when there's 15 or 20 people, we just ask to raise your hand. And then the chair of the board will call on you to speak.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So, draft the proposed zoning regulations.
This is gonna be very difficult to
Yeah.
understand this
Difficult
copy.
to do much on tonight.
I mean, I'll just say right out straight that without the red printing, that I'm not gonna have much of an intelligent, but maybe a lot of it is just kind of pro forma. Like maybe a lot of the changes are kind of technicals.
There's a lot of content in this.
Yeah, well, it's not something we can do in one night.
No. So what has happened is that all of the zoning regulations that have been put in and the things that we wanted to be put in, we gave it to the attorney. They sent this document which has all of the red lines in it, meaning that would come out, and then all of the additions, right? Additions for different things. What has happened though is the way they sent it to us is that we would all need to be able to look at this version that I happen to have. And so it isn't like we're going to be able to look at this tonight and say, yes, we will do this, because you didn't all get the right version of this from the
We
attorney.
didn't get the highlighted.
The correct version of it from the attorney. So I think Jeanette was going to tomorrow at least make sure that everyone has this version, so that we can make those changes that the
So we
lawyer
can also understand
what they are.
because
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. They put a lot more.
It's not just the short-term rentals, it's the whole thing.
So with that-
Because we didn't, this,
Much
and,
bigger than.
And I guess it's been many years that we do planning every 5 years, but zoning.
right. So this is 36 pages, which spans, or 37 pages, which spans all of your zoning regulations. And they've checked everything from spelling to where a comma should go. This is the attorney, which is great. And then they did do, the short-term rental stuff is added in. But I guess what I'm saying is maybe I move that we have this ready,
This copy.
this copy ready in 2 weeks' time to say, where we all can look
That
at
way
it.
we can.
Because you all don't have the right.
Schedule a public hearing.
Yes.
Because there's obviously enough changes in there.
There's
Yes.
a lot of changes.
So I move that we make sure everybody has this copy that we all can say on the board, so that we can all say, yes, these are the changes we wanted, everything looks good. This is what we're gonna have people a hearing on.
Yeah.
I move that
I'll second it.
for the next meeting.
So you're saying that we just kind of put this aside for now?
We
Well-
put it aside until we can all look at, so there's
Yeah,
two different versions, and like you said, and I said, we don't have.
We're not putting it
this-
aside, Susan, we're literally saying, by
Yeah.
the next meeting, this will be the thing ready
We've all looked at.
that we've all gonna say, we're gonna have a hearing and here it is.
They're just asking to table it till next meeting.
Table it till next meeting.
Letting everybody know to be ready
To be ready to get something from us that would go in front of
We
the,
do have one
And to
question.
set a hearing date.
and to set a hearing date.
And also to have given the opportunity to read it in this form, as opposed to the
Right.
the form that we all have,
Yeah.
which isn't, it's not reader friendly at all.
Yeah, but at that
We
point,
got one comment and
Yes.
or
I have
question.
a question, just a clarification. Has the zoning board participated in the creation of the new regs?
absolutely,
Yes.
Okay.
yes. It's,
What's in front of, not in any of these changes.
These
Yes.
changes
Yes.
were the ones that the attorney recommended, but we brought the majority of what the zoning board recommended,
right,
with us only removing or
It
adding.
just happened to me like you weren't sure exactly what it was. Okay, I understand. So
Yeah.
It's correct, the zoning board has been very,
Right.
right.
Done a
Zoning
great
Board is
job.
the one that gave us the initial
Right,
draft.
they gave us this.
And said, this is what we recommend, and then we took
Right.
it to the lawyer, and then the lawyer looked at it and said, this is what we recommend. And there is so many legal terms.
A lot of vernacular.
So we really need to,
like you said, it hadn't
need to dig
been
into it.
revisited in that amount of time, so the
It
whole
was written
thing.
in the 70s
Correct.
and revised maybe 20 years
No,
later.
and the zoning board did a phenomenal job. It isn't
absolutely.
about,
I know it was a lot of work.
yeah. And we really didn't make that many changes at all, but the lawyer actually did.
Yes.
Like millions.
So we just have to go in and accept those and look at them and accept them and then have the document to,
And understand them.
yeah.
To be quite frank, to understand what the lawyers have put in there. Because it wouldn't be fair to anyone to just
Well,
throw something
If I
out.
could just say, as I was looking up junk ordinances, there's a whole bunch of them from the early 2000s that are identical. And then there's a whole bunch of them around the state from the 15 on that are identical and entirely different. Because old language didn't work for the new
Right.
world.
Yeah, moving on to school choice.
Does anybody else have any feedback? I have not.
I have
I haven't heard anything on it either.
Not heard from anybody. I mean,
I know we have a,
one way or
Bus
another,
now?
honestly, yeah.
I understand that there is a bus. It'll be,
I don't know if it was the meeting with the deterrent of how much of a process it was, or if there's just not that many people interested in it. I haven't heard the feedback that I planned on getting. One way or another, I didn't care which way the
I
feedback
haven't
was, but I
heard.
haven't got it either
Yeah.
way personally.
I think the flood has just kind of tamped everything else down.
Yes,
So I
I
think
agree.
it's a little bit, it's kind of just,
on the back burner.
yeah. I mean, I'm very interested in, well, if Scott were here, I would ask him if, if he had more updates about the PCBs at the high school.
They have a meeting this Thursday, a scheduled school board meeting.
Well,
I do know that. But
Yeah, so it's just sort of like nothing's happened.
I can ask him to invite him to our next meeting.
That would be really
Get an
good, I
update
think.
from the school board. Go from there.
No, Livejoy Brook Farm.
Okay, so I was at the office when a call came in about something in the right of way, right when our trucks were going and going across the road, trying to make their way from point A to point B to do their repairs. So I offered to go and ask someone if I could find someone at the farm to move this item out of the way. So when I arrived, I did find someone that was there and spoke to them and told them that, that you have something in the right of way, and explained to them that they need to move all the items out of the right of way. It seemed as though it had been a topic amongst the group in the past, that whomever lives there, because one of the comments was that the townspeople drive too fast by there. They go by 50 miles an hour. I don't know what the speed limit is on
We're 35.
35. And whether or not they go 50, I don't know. And that if they had to move all their stuff out of the right of way, everything would be right up against the door. Now, who this person was I spoke to, and whether they were a true resident or just somebody sitting there loading a burn pile, I don't know. But I did say that if things continue to stay in the right of way, that we will be handing out citations to them, or fines to them. I drove by tonight, and the one item that was in the right of way was taken out. I don't know when it was taken out. But my suggestion is that we go up there and measure so that we actually have a point A and a point B, if this is where everything has to be moved back to. What does everyone feel about that? Like,
I think
if
that's a
we were
great
to
idea.
measure the right of way and say this is, because
I think that Richard and Charlie, is that the head of the road crew? I think you and Charlie, I don't think Robin and I should go up there.
I should not go up there again.
I don't think
Not
Robin
that-
should go
I'm
up
not a
not
big
that-
fan of hearing this, you went up there by yourself.
And
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
husband
I'm
was
not either.
absolutely not a fan of it, and neither was
Probably
my son. and
a single woman
were
not going up there is not a good
they were
idea.
not happy with
Then
it.
I don't think Robin and I should go up there together and start measuring the right of way up there,
No.
but you and Charlie probably could measure.
And I think
Because
more,
then at
I
least-
think we need to show more presence. As
Yes.
it seems to be, it's like you said, the one thing that was mentioned is changed and nothing else has changed, or it will take 5 minutes to go back to
I
having
also
something
think
else.
if you guys go up there and formally measure what the right of way should be, just once, then if the stuff is not cleaned up and it continues to look like it does, then we could make a motion that, okay, we're gonna start charging you money, we're gonna start
Absolutely.
fining you, you've gotta get rid of this stuff. The other thing is, and I know you wanna speak to this as well, I think, but when we just drove up there now, I mean, there is so much like garbage, not like junk, but garbage like from the house garbage pile trash to the left, if you're standing looking at that property, that just, it's like garbage. It looks like the dump in Keene, like it's that kind of garbage.
I did notice when I was there, because I was there for quite some longer than I had chosen to be, but, and had the opportunity to look around a little bit. There are garbage bags that are just kind of piled up, and what's in them, I don't know, because I wasn't opening garbage bags. But my concern is it true trash, or is it collectibles, of whatever might be their collectibles? I also had heard, and maybe Jeanette, you can let me know about this. I was told that maybe they are not allowed to have animals on the premises. Do we know that, or do we
We
not?
never had anything in writing that said that. They surrendered cows at one point, the owner
Okay,
did.
because I did notice today there's goats that are tied up and they're right in the road.
Yeah,
They're
they
like,
have
they're this close to the road. It's not for me to, if they have the legal right to have animals. I just had heard that maybe they were no longer allowed to have
I'm
animals.
aware of.
But, okay, so then that's a moot point, and they have the right to have animals. It is a concern. I think it's worth looking into. I think the first step really is to measure it out and make sure that everything is pushed backwards. Another thing that the gentleman said, and like I said, I don't know if he is a resident or, I don't know who he is. He seemed to be a resident. Said that, well, we'll have to get rid of all of our stuff if we have to get it out of the right of way. Whatever that means.
So the firewood is that in the right of way?
I'm not sure. That's why
'Cause
I
that's-
think
I think we
we
should
should measure.
just do what, and
I think we
see
should
what is.
measure and see what is in the right of way.
So we would be required to give them a notice that somebody was gonna come?
I don't know if we're
Like what
required to give them a
No, I
notice.
don't
to
think so.
measure.
If it's a road
Because it's the town
crew,
road, I mean,
the road crew.
Say within the right of way.
yeah, we can just measure
That's what
from.
you mean by right of way in this context, because what you're talking about, there was a chicken coop in the road.
Right.
And they had put orange cones around
It
it.
was
So
more like-
half of the road wasn't passable.
It's like
But
So the
30
right of way-
35 feet or something.
When we talk about a structure in zoning, that has a very specific meaning, distance from the center of the road. But I don't think that applies to things that aren't structures. That's why so we could go, and the administrator goes and measures from the center of the road to the structure and sees if it's within, legal limits, if they didn't permit it. But it never came up for us. Even a temporary structure isn't in our control. If it's on wheels, it can be any close to the road it wants to be.
Well, it actually can obstruct the right of way,
What do you
especially
mean by right of way?
the right of
Right of
way
way
is the town's,
50 foot right of way.
from the center line, it's 50 feet.
25 feet from
20
center line.
25 feet from the center line. That's saying if there's a tree that needs to be cut, the town does not need permission to cut it. It can be cut if it's a hazard. So the 25 feet, the plow, the wing, because that is the main concern from the road crew, because they are not able to clear the snow in that area the way they want to, because they are concerned they're going to plow things up.
But that doesn't go anywhere near their house.
What's
No.
No.
No, but what I'm saying is that we need to establish our right-of-way and make sure things are cleared from there so that they understand where they need to have things cleared back to. I think that's the first step.
You're saying to legally establish, hey, we're here, we're measuring this, this is what it
This
is.
is what it is.
You're on
Put a little
notice,
orange flaggy up.
Right.
whatever.
Hopefully it's a conversation that goes well with.
It goes well both ways.
Myself and whoever goes up there and just show them that
Right.
this is a tape measure, it doesn't lie. This is what's has to be moved.
And the
Because
reason,
that's the step we're at. There has been notices. They have received very ample paperwork saying that they need to move this stuff.
but they haven't,
When they cleared last year for snow, in anticipation of snow, they cleared the space they need to pile the snow, the road crew does, and they did move it back that distance last year.
We requested that
This is-
take place.
I'm sure.
So what would be nice, what we're looking for is that it always is cleared within that.
So if chicken coop falls over, it's not the road.
Well, I mean, this is our first step, so, I mean,
It worries me, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk, but it highlights the problem that the neighbors have, that you were afraid of them.
we are not afraid of them. But legally, we're bound by.
No, I don't mean you. I mean, a woman going alone there. I'm not, that's the. we
I thought
don't
about
feel
that.
way about it.
I have thought about that. I actually have, and I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I just don't think it's wise. And I don't know that it would be wise. This gentleman looks like a great man. I know nothing about him. For me to walk up to his house without knowing who he is. It's just the whole idea of presenting yourself someplace and not knowing where you're going and not knowing the situation that you're walking into and being alone doing that and making a request that maybe somebody doesn't want to hear you make. So it's not so much of being afraid, it was just not a wise choice.
Well, I'm afraid.
I was speaking in that someone could take it as you going up there and telling them that they need to move something. They could take it as confrontational. They could misinterpret it as.
And I have to say that was not the case at all, because the gentleman I spoke to was pleasant and did not make me feel like I was unsafe. So I do have to say that about him. He listened to what I had to say. And I don't know, the chicken coop is out of the way now, so I don't know.
so do we want to make a motion for Richard and Charlie to go up there?
I think just Chris, Charlie, and I can decide a time and we can report back to you guys what we
That'd be great.
discussed. Because I think that's just
I think that's the first step to address what's going on.
that works for you. We can just figure out a time that works for all three of us.
And did you want to speak to that as well?
Yeah, yes. Well, first of all, I guess, in general, I don't think there should be any doubt that the situation is sort of a blight on the town. No rational, I think rural is one thing. I mean, Lincoln's Farm was not exactly the, sort of an example of a gated community, you might say. But it was what it was, and everybody accepted it for what it was. It was within the bounds of a farm, and a farm is not, a farm can be messy, okay? This is beyond messy. This is just, this is over the top. My question is whether it's relevant or not, I'm not sure, but you go up and you talk to people. Do you have a clear understanding of the occupancy situation, the ownership situation, who lives there, under what authority, and who's responsible personally for what?
And I think those are thank you for speaking up, because those are some of the questions that I have forgotten to talk about here. I don't think we do, and I think it's important that we do. Another thing is I feel maybe we should speak to other towns that have had this issue and what their health inspectors did, and what I think it would be a reasonable conversation with someone else to learn a little more about what we're looking at.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile, and I understand, after being there, I do see that there are things that maybe for safety's sake, even for the people that are living there, I'm a little concerned. Who's living there and
Yeah.
what are they,
I mean, there are similar examples. I mean, you can only, just look on Route 11 on the way to Chester, on the left-hand side, you'll see a similar example. To some extent, maybe less so, because I don't think there are animal involved. I'm still waiting for when there's an avalanche of junk on Route 11 one of these days, but that's another situation. Have you considered getting outside, in a sense, looking at other towns as a form of outside help, but I think this is a tricky legal situation. What may be obvious from a sort of common sense viewpoint may not be so obvious from a legal viewpoint. And that's, I think, maybe where you might need some expert advice or counsel. And I realize that anything, that involves money. And money right now, given the situation, is not necessarily is a commodity in demand. But you might consider getting some advice, serious legal advice on seeing what the situation is and what the legal recourse is, taking the whole picture, because looking at the right-of-way is a sort of a very easy, it's one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Right.
As to what you do about the whole situation. It's an easy thing to do. You can measure, you can say, well, you're 2 feet over, you're whatever. But that is just a drop in the bucket, with respect to the overall problem, which is really.
I think, go ahead.
And so my thought was that if we were to speak to some other towns that have dealt with the same issue and what is it that they have done, so that we're not actually asking for legal advice right now, but we're gathering advice, because then it's not costing the taxpayers any money. And maybe we can take another step as to what it is that needs to be done, or if something needs to be done. I'm sure if you asked every resident along that road close to their home, everyone feels something needs to be done. Like I said, I don't know if the bags that look like garbage bags to me are filled with some sort of family heirlooms. I have no idea. Those are, I didn't open them. I can't speak for that. So all those things kind of have to be asked, and instead of going outside of into a legal conversation, maybe we can have conversations with people that have already dealt with it and then decide which way to go. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I understand.
reinventing the wheel. No, I think it's a necessary first step.
Yes.
I tell you, my wife, then with respect to the cannabis situation, my wife talked to the people in Chester about similar situation and came to the conclusion that, got some interesting perspective from Chester, and concluded there wasn't too much that could be done about it, frankly, under the current situation. So they've lived through it, and I think a number of similar situations, I think would probably be worthwhile to speak to, at least I would say Chester.
Right. I agree.
I do remember reading in the paper that either Cavendish or Proctorsville wanted to initiate a junk ordinance and made a decision that what would be fair would be to cover every inch of the town and see which houses would be in violation, so they didn't act. So it wasn't as if they made the ordinance on account of one offender, and so that they looked at every single house and realized how many people would be affected. And so to your point, I mean, there are other houses, but they're not so much traveled maybe.
But also, I think we run a risk of what is considered junk to one person. Is it?
Well, but legally in these ordinances, it's more specific. It's
Right.
appliances and tires, and it does fit what's going on there.
And I hear you. I was.
Yeah, it's true that this could be going on in 10 other places, but they're not main roads, and so we don't know.
By the way, in the same thing, one of my questions originally, because I guess I was surprised that, Lydia's Farm was not on the agenda tonight, either as because it's a really old business. I would have thought that old business, until it's checked out, remains on the list of old business until it's resolved. In other words, how do you, when you set up the agenda of these meetings, do you in fact continue old business that has not been resolved as old business, or do you drop it, or what?
Well, we had written a letter because there was other items in the right of way and asked them to move them. And if they hadn't been moved, then we would be issuing fines. And they moved them. So at that point, it was, what we had asked was resolved. And then again, there were more.
Now more complaints have come in.
Well, but there were issues, in the previous meeting, there were issues having to do with junkyard. Somebody was going to check to see what the junkyard regulations were, and things having to do with animals. So it wasn't just the right-of-way issue. There were other issues that were raised at a previous meeting that were never resolved. I mean,
Whether or not there was a vehicle that was unregistered or how many vehicles were
whether
unregistered.
whether they needed some kind of special permit. And
That was what was brought up, was the number of unregistered vehicles, but it seemed to be at that certain property, it was more of the garbage / tires, appliances. There was not as many, because I know that was one of the distinct things that the state defines, is the number of unregistered vehicles, so.
We voted to amend the agenda at the beginning of this meeting, otherwise we wouldn't be having this formal discussion about it. And so if you hadn't been here, it's true, you wouldn't have known that.
It will be on the next meeting with another update.
With another update, right?
I would also say is that what we tend to do, and we do tend to do this, is, like Robin said, we sent a letter and they moved a few things. It doesn't mean that we take it completely off our radar. It just means that now we're watching to see what we're going to be able to do next. And oftentimes we don't put it on the agenda if we don't have anything new to say about it, or we haven't learned anything, or if we haven't gotten something back from the attorney that we're ready to do. Meaning, do you see what I mean? But then Robin went up there, and that's why it got on the agenda. Had she not done that, and we were still sort of waiting to see what they were going to do, then it would have gotten on the agenda later when we were talking about, okay, they've not responded, or it's not changing, or it is changing, and we need to do something more. Would you all agree with that? I mean, that's sort of how we end up with things on the old business.
I mean, I don't think Andover has a health officer. I think
We are
the
the
board of
health
the select board is the health officer. But that's something, I don't know what, that's somebody who could be talked to probably in another town is a health officer without going into junk ordinances and everything.
As far as theirs having a business of a junkyard, I've looked into that. And they're not. You can't find them on the web as selling anything. The sign outside the property was selling stuff that people sell all the time. Hay, firewood, barn sale once a month was listed on their board. And so, but as, just to see if we could nail them with this zoning situation, I'd have to try to buy something and, doing that. But you can't find them on the web as selling anything, except what people sell all the time.
No. Move on. Traffic report. Traffic counting, speed. The car counter up on the Gary Williams. The 292 cars going 60 to 65 miles an hour. 125 cars going 65 to 70 miles an hour, and 106 going over 70 miles an hour.
Who reported, how did this get reported?
It's a speed study. Have you ever seen those black rubbers that go across the road? So they do it that way, and then they also do manual. Sometimes they'll just sit there with a radar gun. What's that?
When was the last time?
Just recently.
Recently?
Yeah, we tried last year, but the study was inconclusive. There was a faulty sensor or something, right?
Not recently. I haven't seen any recently.
It was this early summer, right? And then they just got the data back to us, yeah.
So we're talking, the speed coil or whatever it is, cable that's by Wanda Eubank's house. It surprised me that cars were speeding up as they were going towards the Oxbow. Because I would think that, I think that was my understanding from reading the results. I thought they'd speed up going.
So last year,
Towards
there was a
Weston.
petition brought to the select board that was signed, and it was to lower the speed limit on Andover Weston Road. So that's what this is about, and there was a speed study set up and it was inconclusive, and then when they did their manual, they were down by the campground, and as a board, we felt that that was probably not giving a true number, because most people would see that that becomes a little more rural, so they might slow down, so we went back, asked them to do it again in a different spot, and apparently it is bringing back the data that people are going much more than 50 miles an hour.
I would like to make an observation, and maybe someone can check me to make sure that I'm correct. If you approach the Western to Andover Road from Chester, getting off Route 11, there's a speed board that clearly indicates a speed limit of 40 miles an hour. As you get close to the town in this area, there's a speed limit sign that says 35 miles an hour. Sorry, 30 miles an hour.
Correct.
30 miles an hour. If you go a little further, there's a sign that says end. End what?
Ends the 30 mile an hour and goes back to this, that's a paved road with no speed limit, so it's 50 miles an hour.
It's a town line, it's a problem.
Well, it's Chester Town Line down here.
Okay. So it says end, okay, and then so you continue. Then you've got East Hill Road, where the speed limit is indicated, I'm sure, at 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, East Hill is 40.
Is it 40 in East Hill?
40
40
until it hits the dirt.
There are two different.
Or sorry, no, it's actually 40 until after the East Hill farm.
Okay, and then you keep going, and then North Hill is 35 miles an hour. And you keep going down to Weston, and you do not see a speed limit anywhere. After, in terms of number, and it's not a number where it says end. So what's the inference of end? End the 30 miles an hour, going back to 40 or what?
Going back to 50.
There's nothing that says 50, okay. Now, I will say, on the other hand, coming back from Weston, okay, my car, the speed thing on this mountain cars, my car goes crazy. I'm driving at 40 miles an hour, and my car is saying, you're speeding. It's supposed to be 30, 35 or whatever miles an hour, and the thing keeps blinking. And there's no sign whatsoever, there's no speed limit sign whatsoever from the western side,
When you hit Andover,
towards
the
Andover.
Andover line, when you hit the Andover line?
There's no speed.
It's
There's
50
no
miles an hour.
speed.
It's
There's a
50.
default 50, I
On
think,
the
if it's
paved-
not
on the paved
posted
road.
anywhere.
Anywhere where it's not posted speed in the state of Vermont on a paved road is 50 miles an hour, on a rural dirt road
Then
is 30.
some entity has set up my car,
Yeah.
set up my car to believe that the speed limit on from the picking it up from the western side is actually, I guess it's probably 30 miles an hour. I think it thinks it's 30 miles an hour.
I do believe there is a 30 mile an hour sign on Andover Weston Road at the first corner.
No,
when you come in Weston, when you come down, it's 30, because before that farm that they sell pork at, they have slow down, please, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But that's Weston, that is not Andover.
It's not
So-
Andover.
But this was brought to us because of that reason, that it is a unmarked paved road and it is 50, and people feel that 50 is too fast for Andover Weston Road. That was what the petition was for.
For the Andover portion.
For Andover, we're not talking
We're not talking
Chester
about.
nor Weston. We're
Right.
talking about the Andover portion, and the only portion that the speed changes is from that sign to right before
What was the
Simmons,
fastest you said?
over 70.
Yeah, that's,
106 cars.
Yeah. The average
What
was
was that?
still, the average was still over 50 miles an hour.
106 cars in what period of time? Well,
I'm
it's hardly ever
2
any
weeks,
cars.
I think it said, wasn't really 2 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, no.
It was 2 weeks.
God, you
And
can
how many
drive up
cars
and
did
down
they count?
sometimes and not see another car.
How many cars were there?
106, is that what you said? 106 guys?
60 and 70, over 70.
That was just the ones doing over 70.
So how many in total? What is that percentage of the amount of cars that are counted?
Almost 500 cars.
500 cars?
500 cars? So
I don't know if that's all of them, because that was just the ones from 60 up.
Correct. He's only got written down the ones that are 10 miles an hour over the speed limit and then above.
So yes, people are speeding up through there.
And we did this as the request from that petition, and it had taken this long, like I said, because that other one was inconclusive, so.
And we couldn't do it during the winter.
Correct. They don't do them during the winter because they pile up the speed study. And we informed at that meeting that changing the speed is a cost to the town. The signs, the posts, there are no signs and no posts that, obviously, like you said, that show the speed.
But isn't there also a formality wise, there's a lot of things you have to, a lot of hoops you have to jump through?
Correct. It would have to be to lower the speed. I mean, they don't.
Some's not totally.
Well, you
Right, we
guys,
have to
you
get
guys
permission
went
from
through
the
that,
state
you
to-
guys went through that process
Yeah.
to put a speed limit on North Hill last year.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
It's not, that process is not that bad. I wanted to make sure everybody, like, the amount of signs that would take, because you have to have them a certain distance apart for that reason.
Well, we do not have a contract with the sheriff anymore to patrol the speed on town roads. But we have those gizmos on either end of town. But I mean, Jeanette, do you feel that they're pretty effective? Or you people aren't like, or you don't know? Or do you know? You must notice. Who knows?
You know what? Some people speed, some people don't.
Right. And I don't know how much the gizmos cost, but in any case, we're not spending it on the sheriff. But other than that, it's not like you can really enforce much. You can't really enforce much of anything, going up by Middletown Cemetery, because there's never anybody there, but, except at the cemetery, but I guess one could make a case probably to invest in signs that say 50 even. I don't know.
It's very easy to assume that through traffic would assume 40.
From Chester, I think that is an assumption, and that actually Chester actually wrote to the select board asking if we would change from where their town line is to that 30-mile-an-hour zone. Correct? They asked it so that section of road was all the same speed. And we got into that, if we're gonna change it there, does it need to be changed the whole
I would
length?
also think that the super speeders are through traffic.
Yeah,
Well, Chester is not maintaining that stretch of road, so
to
that's
slow
a
people down, I
deterrent.
think.
And then you've got the goats and all that business.
Okay.
Move on to road commissioner's report. We just got lots of road topping to do, yeah.
I mean, Middletown, wait, did I lose my chance? Middletown is technically an old settlement. It's like a little village of its own, between the Oxbow and at least Middletown Road and maybe up to Middletown Cemetery. I mean, that is a village center. It could be posted as a village center. There are a lot of houses there. I don't know if there's a will to do that. But it is a little old village right there.
All right.
Do that, we got a petition to do it. The road commissioner's report. You guys have started putting crushed stone on roads. The SLC and Chase are both out in the SurePack. So they're using what they can get. This is plant mix of the SLC. They're having it hauled in dump trailers and then they shuttling it from here out.
Oh, they're getting it delivered here. Perfect.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because that's a lot of time for them to haul there. Yeah.
Some of it getting dumped over to Shades, I remember Colton's.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what you were saying, yeah.
We're dumping some over there because we ran out of room here, but.
Do we need to look into having some of our winter sand hauled?
Yeah.
I think we need to discuss that because we did not buy it trucked. We also didn't plan on having a flood where our guys were gonna be so busy they wouldn't have time to truck winter sand, but we're at the point where it's usually all here and there's none, correct?
None.
None.
Well,
So-
left over from last year.
None of the new stuff is here yet. And usually they're finishing up this time of year hauling it in. So we
And-
would have to look into hiring that
Is-
company that we bought it from offered a price. I don't know if they're even available.
I know, that was my question. Is there anyone even available to truck?
We'd have to put it out to.
It'd have to be put out to bid. We couldn't, but that's what I'm saying, like, hopefully that company would bid on it again because they did send the price per yard delivered. But we, as a board, decided to save the money prior to the flood because it's a reasonable haul from Chester, Rockingham to here, but now we're in
So-
a different boat.
Would we need to put it out to bid, or could
Absolutely.
we ask
It has to be put
the
out to
company
bid.
that needs to go out to bid?
Now, do we want to talk to Charlie, see if he wants it all hauled, or do you think that they can handle some of it? They probably got enough to do, don't they?
They get the roads all topped up and graded, don't they?
Yeah, and it's middle of August.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we put out having all the winter sand trucked in, having that bid on.
I second that.
All those in favor?
We have a question or a comment.
Yeah, Mayor, is it permissible to circle back on the Lydia's Farm subject?
You can do it, yeah, good.
What if someone came in and bought Lydia's Farm? In other words, the issue is, how can we get the current, if we want to, if they're not compliant or have the current occupant, what is the legal position of the current occupants,
They are tenants to the best of our knowledge.
to the best of your knowledge?
But the taxes are paid every year by the
Yeah,
owner.
they're paid by somebody else,
They're
probably.
paid by the owner.
Correct, which is also the case in many other residents in Andover. There are long-term tenants that we do not keep track of. We send the tax bill to the homeowner, the person, and they decide to rent their property to someone else.
So whose responsibility is it, in fact, to make sure that the property is being managed or handled appropriately? Is it the tenant, or is it the owner, or is it a combination of the two? In other words, who do you point the finger at when there is a problem?
We
I'd say
send,
the owner.
yeah, we send the warning letters to the owner.
So it's.
Legally, it has to be sent to the homeowner. He's the
It has to be
taxpayer.
sent to
I
the-
mean, honestly, we don't, I would not assume that people are paying rent. I mean, people have all kinds of, people live on farms and trade labor. I mean, there's no reason to believe anybody, I have no idea, I have no clue, but the last thing I'd do is assume that they're renters even.
Right.
So they could, okay, so basically the legal responsibility is, as far as you're concerned, is the owner. It is the owner's responsibility.
Yeah.
So-
Letters have gone to the owner.
Right, that's who.
Letters have gone to the owner. These things have to be cleaned up. And then the owner has dealt with that in whatever way they've determined.
So your communications have been with the owner, okay.
Some years ago, there was a health issue that was, the select board started, maybe you remember this, where the health department came out and discussed, because the owner was not living on the premises, it was considered a rooming house, and there had to be certain egress from every bedroom because of that, and I can't say I know where that ended, but if I had a guess, it would be that he just stopped charging rent, and that, rather than make the house compliant, so, because it went away, that it, as an issue, they complied in some way. But if the owner does not live on the premises, then it's got one set of rules than, rather than a FEMA does, I remember.
Yeah, and the owner lives close by. I have no clue. Maybe the owner could very well be there every day doing this and that and the other thing and live there half the time. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't know.
Get back to where we're at. The guys were asking this morning if we would consider paying them some of their vacation time rather than them taking it, because they're not gonna be able to take.
Because they won't be able to take it.
Yeah, they've only got a month and a half left, right, before winter months, or sorry, 2.5 months.
Isn't that our policy to do that and pass it the day?
How much are they each looking for a week?
So can we, is that something we would discuss in private session or in exclusive session?
We probably would have
Like
to.
executive session.
Executive session, I'd be interested in discussing that, but
Yeah, you can do it. Exactly.
what do you think?
Yeah, being that it's a. pay
Because it's a
thing.
pay thing, I
Has
think
to
we
be
should,
executive
that
session.
should be. Not to add one more thing, do we do that tonight, or do we do that at the next meeting, or what do
You can
you?
do it, you can wait till next meeting.
We
At the
put it on
next
the
meeting.
agenda for next
Okay.
meeting, yeah. As long as they're on.
Did you hear that?
And the other thing that Charlie did order some radios finally.
Perfect.
Oh, nice.
The bill is $6,000 plus installation, so it might be as much as $8,000 for 9 new radios and 2 bases. Seven new radios and 2 bases. Come from ARPA funds.
Can I circle back to the crew wanting to take their vacation time? Does that give them enough time if we wait until the next meeting? On to what
Does it?
decisions we make?
Yes.
It does?
Yeah, I don't, I would mean if they,
All right, sorry.
That's a hell of Commissioner.
they've all been doing a great job. I've seen Charlie
They have.
grading roads on Saturday. Some of the normal stuff is, normal road maintenance stuff, they're also getting done, which is great. And they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Putting in a lot of long days. I've seen them.
I bet.
Oh, financial orders.
Oh, I had it first time.
Did they get the generator, did Green Mountain Power have, not yet? Sure they're busy.
Those are the minutes. You weren't here, so you can't sign those.
Oh,
Right?
Because that's all it's holding up,
Right.
right? It's just the service, yeah.
This one's like that.
Nice.
Sorry, you're anything on the loader yet.
I was just thinking about that when I see they had it parked down there closer to the campground. There's that main barrack.
So Jeanette, you are able to print out a copy with the red?
I will. I was able to go into the document and open it so that I could see what Melissa could
Oh,
see.
good, you did.
I've emailed a copy to Robin to see if she can open that same copy in her email, just out of curiosity. But because I can open it that way, I will print hard copies for everybody.
So,
I can do that tomorrow, so as soon as you want to stop by and
yeah,
get it.
okay.
Jeanette, what is College of Atlantic?
So that is where one of the 3 Andover scholarship recipients is attending school. So one of my hats is treasurer of the Andover Scholarship Bank account.
One of your 50 hats? I picture you with a trailer behind your car with 800 hats.
With my hats, so I know which one to
Just
pick
go
out.
out to the parking lot and open it up.
Yeah, but she won't monitor the speed of the traffic in front of the office, so.
Oh, I didn't say I don't monitor it. I
She
was
just said-
unwilling to
Comments.
make it sound like I had any sort of qualitative information. I only have what I feel.
For the building.
This is a lot of expenses.
If a dump truck goes by at a certain speed, I call the owner of the company and complain, or I call Charlie and complain. So those problems get solved.
What's that? They
It's
did?
just bad.
Back through the whole way across the road.
It's one of
No way.
Just want to go.
55 miles an hour. But anyway.
You know what I have a hard time is when I say cell phones. And I think, what are you doing on your cell phone?
Which one's the Hills been working on? You're on here.
Truck drivers, like,
That's,
uh-huh, yes it is.
What's that?
So I'm gonna take this.
Want some,
Through it next.
we have an egg fight?
Just a second.
I know it's coming.
It doesn't.
See, all
Well, I don't know, I like to read the chambers.
Well, I'm saying,
doing anything,
right,
or they
I
all
mean, you
finish
can
up
do the
with
same,
council?
I'm just saying, a lot of it is spelling, punctuation.
right, statutory.
Right.
Oh, we did.
The
yeah.
statutory
And then
stuff,
ground
I
points on
can't
Schmidt
do any
Road,
better
right?
on that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, right.
Is there any correspondence?
Yeah, we have a couple things. So, just as you saw, probably sort of in lots of different places, the Okemo Board of Realtors had collected flood money or to be dispersed. And they actually, brought a check to the town of Andover for $500. So I wanted to ask all of you what you wanted to do with the $500 that they have donated. And we can think about it, or I can put it on the next agenda, or you can tell me just to put it in the bank, or I don't know.
Are we allowed to put it in the highway fund, or it has to be a separate
You
thing?
can put it wherever you all would like it to go.
I mean, that would put it directly towards flood
Right,
relief.
highway front.
That would be
right?
directly towards flood relief, I guess. That would be,
Yeah,
I make a motion, we put it towards the highway fund,
I second.
in favor?
because Susan came up with it. Susan makes that motion.
That's right.
It was
Can
her
we-
idea. Fine.
should you send a thank you about that, or is that just something that they?
We
I don't-
can, yeah, if
I don't
I'll
know.
find contact info. It was hand delivered, so, Okemo Board. Yeah, we can do that. I'll write something for Chris to sign.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And the other, I guess I would call it, well, it's sort of correspondence. So these are 2 of the contracts for the contractors that are doing work for us to help repair the roads. So as I explained to some of you, this is a formality for FEMA. We have to have these because, you know, the emergency time stops and then you have to have a contract. The date limits I put on most of them are October 1st, and Charlie was okay with that date. We can always go back and renew a contract for a later date if we find it's going to take longer than October 1st. Based on what some of them had already charged us, that's how I came to a dollar figure that they would not exceed. And again, if that needs to be changed, we can drop a new contract. So if you all want to make a motion, one of them is for Chuck's Property Service. He did the work on Andover Ridge, and there may be a little bit more that Charlie is asking him to do. And then this one is for Woodland Earthworks, which is owned by Reg Paris. They're literally templates from VLCT, so they're boilerplate. Chuck noted on his that, you know, traffic control and things like that weren't an issue, so he just put an NA, not applicable. And they all have appropriate, they all have appropriate insurance and have named Town of Andover as their other
Do you want
insured.
us to sign these?
Additionally insured? Yeah.
Mhm.
No, we don't have to sign them, it's just, I don't think.
Yeah, there are 5 lines on the last page, last 2 pages.
That's what I was thinking.
About taking, if you needed to take any action or if we needed to go into arbitration for resolving a dispute.
Thank you.
Wait, do we have to sign these?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
I thought no. Okay. That's why I handed it to you unsigned.
Wait, oh,
I know, it's just.
Oh.
Sorry. No, I thought it was just Jeanette and Chris.
No, in contracts, I'd rather have you guys involved as well. So I know you're discussing it at the next meeting. I'll put it on the agenda for an executive session, but so the way vacation time works is it's based on your anniversary date. So it's not on calendar year. It's you get your vacation time refreshed on your anniversary date each year. So we're not near anybody's anniversary date at this time. And everyone is allowed to carry over 40 hours into the next year, but not more than that. So just information.
And I guess we discussed this. Yep.
Oh, you didn't, sorry, Chris didn't get that one. I think everybody else did.
Jeanette, have they all made that request?
They didn't talk to me. This is the first I've heard of it.
They all made that
No,
request?
Chris brought that to our attention tonight.
And they did,
I
they
don't
all
know.
made, it's
Was that
unanimous?
from all 3 road crew guys were wondering that about Daryl? Yeah.
They all said they're saying.
I think it was, did you hear?
It was kind of into the joint thing. Daryl brought it up, but Charlie said he had time to.
Yeah, just, thank you. Sorry.
Josh said,
Can you look into that and make sure that, well, just to find out if they all 3?
I think it's something, no matter what we decide, it has to be the decision that to allow all or none. You know what I mean? If we decide a certain amount of vacation can or cannot be used, I think that has to be for all, everybody.
Then they can make the choice.
Correct. I mean, yeah, I think I think that would be the right way to go about it. Was that the last?
I think that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I second it.
all in favor?
Aye.